Welcome to another episode of Red State Live. How you guys doing? What's up, John? What's up, Carrie? What's up, Mentats? What's up, Noob? Y'all doing all right this morning? I guess it's noon for some of y'all on the East Coast. It's 11 o'clock in Texas, Central Time Zone, the only time zone that matters. Today, we got a lot to talk about. And to be honest with you, some of this stuff gives me hope. I'm really glad to see it. A lot of this hope comes from the fact that I feel like parents aren't putting up with the nonsense anymore. They were willing to tolerate a lot of things that have been thrown at them lately, whether it be the coronavirus, pandemic lockdown nonsense, losing their jobs and stuff. That's, they tolerated that. Americans tolerated a lot. And all in the interest of making sure that everybody, is fine. It was a very selfless time in America. But now you're going after the kids, man. You're going after the kids, and now suddenly these parents that were patient, that were giving, that were willing to cooperate are turning a 180 here. They're not putting up with it anymore. And God bless them for it. They're coming out in droves, whether they're coming out in, to school board meetings, whether they're showing up at City Hall, whether they're advocating in various ways online. They're coming out in droves, and they are clearly coming out also at the voting booth. And I'm very happy to see that. I know that they're coming out in the voting booth because they've already kicked one Democrat governor out, because he wouldn't, his state was going after the kids, and parents wouldn't tolerate it. So they booted him. You've also got school board members running for their lives, getting booted out of their positions because parents aren't having it anymore. Parents, in my honest opinion, have become the most powerful political party in the United States. They can literally snap their fingers collectively and Democrats just disappear, or they fall in line. How often do you see Democrats follow anybody but their own leaders? Parents are scary, man. They're scary. And as it turns out, they're not happy with the Democrat Party. The Democrat Party is in their crosshairs. And Democrats are running scared. Love it. You love to see it. And not just because it's anti-Democrat Party. Let me be very clear about this. It's not even just about the fact that they've turned against the Democrat Party. It's about the fact that they are standing up for what's right and for what's for their children. What's right for their children here in the United States. Their freedoms. They're standing up for their children's freedoms. For their well-being. And in a time when you have a lot of activists, a lot of Democrats, politicians, media figures, all these people trying to move in and make their kids robots, loyal voters. They're trying to groom these children. You have parents standing up and saying, no, this is not the right thing. This is not the way. This is not the right thing to do. And we're going to do whatever it takes to make sure that these people fail. And when these parents set out to make people fail, those people fail. Big. I don't think I need to remind you guys. Terry McAuliffe in Virginia, he's a Democrat mainstay. Gone. Like that. Glenn Youngkin is now governor of Virginia because parents willed it to be so. I'm sure there were other factors, sure. You can point to a lot of things, but let's not pretend it wasn't mainly parents, pissed off parents who were watching these Virginia schools try to brainwash their kids with everything from these, extremist LGBT activist agenda points to CRT. You screw with the kids, you get the parents' wrath. That's the way it is. Eastern time, the only time that matters. No, it's not. No, Carrie, you're wrong. Central time is the only time zone that matters. We have NASA. So there's that. Living La Vida Loca. You're living La Vida Loca. Look, Virginia, what a great example. Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, Virginia is right now one of the primary examples. I got to tell you guys also, you want to talk about the bluest of the blue areas being threatened by parents. We've had, I think in San Francisco, right now, 3 school board members have already been booted out of their positions because they were way too leftist, way too political. They were putting their politics before the kids. 3 of them are gone, and there's a 4th on the chopping block. In San Francisco, that's a big deal. Because you would think in San Francisco, I consider San Francisco to be the bluest of the blue areas. Like, you don't get much more leftist. These people are so leftist that they're one of their big buildings is literally falling over to the left. Okay, it's that big of a deal. Some of the most ridiculous stuff has been passed in San Francisco because these leftists put this fantasy world before reality. I mean, you have a city where they're handing out needles to drug addicts. You have to have a poop app to avoid the piles of people poop that litter the sidewalks. You have stories about kids who go on these field trips to go and visit these historical monuments and see all this stuff, and they have passed out drug addicts that are half naked laying in the grass just there. Right? That's how bad San Francisco is. And even San Francisco parents are like, nah, bro. Nah. It's one thing to do all that. It's another thing to mess with my kids. Not happening. And so the parents are rising up and they're saying, no more. No more. You know where else they're rising up? I'm glad you asked. New York City Democrat mayor stepped in it with the city's parents, and they showed up en masse to tell them. This is at redstate.com. Right now, you can go there and follow along with me. Everything that we'll be talking about today is on redstate.com. Also, real fast, just a reminder, like the stream if you haven't already. Press the like button on that stream. And if you are new here, please press the subscribe button and the bell notification icon so that you know when we go live. We are live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 11 o'clock CST. Or 12 Eastern, if you want to go with that time. So, how to lose an election. Parents should have no say in their children's education. Exactly. Carrie, you nailed it. That's one of the things that they have been trying to push relentlessly. It's like the left, its hubris has gotten so far, so bad, so... It's like infected their brains to the point where they're literally trying to say, well, we here at the, these us educators, us bureaucrats, we get to have more of a say about how your child grows up than you do. We realize that you created this child and that you raised them from a small baby, but that child doesn't belong to you. It belongs to us. It belongs to us, and so therefore we should be able to. Oh, and what gives them that ownership? They don't know. They don't really have a reason. Their whole entire mentality is that it takes a village to raise a child. It's their village that has to raise the child, though. But they claimed your child. This is not hyperbole. This is stuff that they have actually outward said. Like teachers unions, they love to say that. That's one of the biggest things that teachers unions like to say. That the parents should have no say whatsoever. That the parents they should be a tertiary concern when it comes to how a child is raised. How proud do you have to? How cocky do you have to be to look a parent in the eye? Which, by the way, I don't even know if they've ever looked a parent in the eye and said it. Of course, naturally, I bet the vast majority of I have not seen one of them say to a parent's face this, but through behind the safety of laws or bureaucrats, people who create red tape, activists, media figures, these people straight up think that they, when it comes to your child's education, when it comes to not just their education, how they're raised, they get to have the say before you do, the parent. Parents are not having it. I'm thrilled about it. Nerdrotic came from San Francisco. It makes sense that they're about done. Yeah, I heard. Yeah, they left, didn't they? What's up, 10-9? I just moved from Fairfax, Virginia to more of the Appalachian area of Virginia, and it is so much better. I bet it is, man. I bet it is. 'Tis who you think it is. Wait, John, I don't see what kind of, what is this that you're doing? I can't see it. That a cat? I'm in the most historic triangle. You're in the historic triangle. So, yeah, we got some people from Virginia here. We got some people from Virginia here who can confirm it was ridiculous. NYC's Democrat mayor stepped in it with the city's parents, and they showed up en masse to tell him. So, I'm just going to go ahead and dive into this so you guys can see just how far parents are starting to take things. Nerdrotic got the heck out. Good for them, dude. People are leaving California in droves, and they're going to all sorts of places, including Texas, including Dallas. God, you guys are swarming here. I swear, since I first moved to Dallas, I swear the city is like doubled in size. People are everywhere. They're everywhere. Democrat politicians seem unable to wrap their heads around the simple concept that they need to leave children alone. Whether through some misguided personal beliefs, adherence to the demands of teachers' unions, or both, elected officials on the left want to tighten the grip around your children as much as possible. As a result, you see them enacting mask mandates on small children, even as they lift mask mandates for everyone else. So, Democrats have a really bad habit of trying to enforce nonsense on children. There is really no clear reason why until you kind of factor in teachers' unions. Teachers' unions are one of the most powerful groups on the left, and as a result, they have, in my opinion, garnered something, some sort of chip on their shoulder. They truly believe that they are just God's gift, God with the lowercase g, his gift to the world. They come out with some very, very radically left things that they think are important for kids to know and experience. A lot of the CRT stuff, you see it pushed by teachers' unions. But they're also pushing these absurd COVID-19 precautions. And where everyone else is getting their mask mandates lifted, you have many holdouts when it comes to certain blue states or cities, which is not good for the Democrat politician, as you can see, as is happening right now. Parents are becoming angrier and angrier at these politicians who try to come down on their kids, but they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. You know, do you upset the teachers union, which is, a lot of money gets funneled to the Democrats from teachers unions? Do you piss those off and not get the funding from the teachers unions, lose the backing of the teachers unions? Or do you obey the parents? You're stuck between a rock and a hard place. It's a lose-lose situation. Because if you defy the parents, chances are you're going to lose there too. More likely you're going to lose to them. According to the New York Post, New York Mayor Eric Adams found over 100 parents had shown up in City Hall Park to protest the masking of their children in schools. This is from the New York Post. The mandate is not following the science. This is making a mockery of science. This is playing us for fools, said rally-goer Daniela Jempel, a 38-year-old mother of three, including a 4-year-old in public pre-K from Washington Heights. New York State recognizes the science. Everywhere else in the New York State, 10 miles away in Nassau County, 10 miles away in Westchester County, toddlers are allowed to take off their masks along with their older brothers and sisters, she said. But Our mayor and our new health commissioner tell us it's not safe for toddlers to take off their masks, Jampel told the Post at the rally. This is counterintuitive as children suffer the least from the COVID-19 pandemic and has shown to be actually detrimental to children, not beneficial. Not only do the masks not work, as has now been admitted by even left-leaning medical experts, but children have been the least at-risk group for the virus from the beginning. Masking them doesn't make any sense, and for a time it was common sense not to mask them. That seemed to change when the prospect of reopening schools was on the table. As has been covered repeatedly, even by, like I said, leftist medical experts. You had Leanna Witt on CNN calling anything short of an N95 mask a facial decoration. Her words, not mine. She called it a facial decoration. And sure enough, I mean, it is absolutely true. But here's the thing. Let's say you give all the kids N95 masks. You know, these are small children we're talking about here. They're not going to keep the mask perfectly in place. They are... First off, they are touching everything with their hands. They're dirty. You know, they're kids. It's what they do. And what do they always do? They rub their eyes. They pick their nose. They put stuff in their mouth with their hands. Like they're going to move that mask. And anything that they have touched, it's going to wind up on their face. It's going to. That's just nature. But luckily, as we have found out, kids do not really suffer that much from the coronavirus at all. But I'm going to get to that in a second. Adams' office can't seem to get its story straight about masking either. As the New York Post reported, Adams is assuring parents that the mask mandate for children will be lifted soon, while the health czar, Dr. Ashwin Vasan, seems to believe kids will be masked indefinitely. Confronted by an irate parent earlier this month, Adams assured that the toddler mandate would not be around for long, telling the concerned dad that the children would be, quote, unmasked. I got this. I'll take care of this, the mayor said. They'll be unmasked. The comment seems to be at odds with statements made last week by Vasan, who said that the mask mandates for children should remain, quote, indefinitely. I think it's indefinite at this point, Vasan said Friday. People who have tried to predict the future in this pandemic have had egg on their face, and I'm not going to do that today, my guy. You have been wrong at every turn. These people who have been preaching the end of the world from the COVID-19 pandemic have been wrong at every turn. We just had an entire medical panel in Florida talk about how we have been wrong this entire time and that lockdowns really only hurt people, that masks didn't really do anything. It has been an unmitigated disaster, these lockdowns, these precautions. They have gotten people their entire lives destroyed. And this dude's over here saying, well, people have been proven wrong about, this COVID-19 thing in the past, so we're just going to keep the masks on for the kids. Why? According to the American Academy of Pediatrics, between 0.1 and 1.5% of children need hospitalization when they contract COVID-19, and 0.01 or less die from it. Altogether, these are numbers and facts that scream unmasking is not just wise, it's necessary. Vasan is wrong. Flat out, the science says so. The science is right there, bro. And yet he's sitting there telling everybody that this is going to be indefinite and that these people who want the masks off the kids are wrong. And they're going to have egg on their face. Just like before. What before time? What are you talking about? I have no idea what he's talking about. Where is he getting his numbers and facts and figures from? I'm going to guess the teachers union. That's where I'm guessing he's getting his marching orders from. He's in your fine state? Oh, really? Did he move? What city did he move to? Did he move to Dallas? Everyone's moving to Dallas. I love going Jamestown, but now it's like a 2-hour drive at least. How do you keep a mask on a toddler? My grandkids won't keep sunglasses on. Yeah, see, exactly. Ideally, you don't. Otherwise, duct tape. I'm pretty sure that they would go that far now. I swear, teachers would... You've seen some of the videos and stuff of teachers who, lock kids in rooms and won't let them out against the rules. They're just mean to these kids that refuse to wear masks or anything. These people are crazy, man. They're crazy. This attempt to exert unnecessary control over children has put Democrats on a crash course with America's parents, and they've been showing up around the nation to make it clear who is in charge when it comes to their children's lives. It's something Democrat politicians and their teachers' unions don't appreciate much, and there have been attempts to silence or punish parents who defy the will of the institutional left. Needless to say, it hasn't worked out for Democrats who have put parents into a position to become an unofficial political party of their own. Democrats, like I said, they've been getting spanked a lot lately. Parents have been wreaking havoc on Democrat strongholds, including ousting Terry McAuliffe in Virginia, three school board members in San Francisco thus far. There's a fourth on the chopping block right now. And putting the fear in Democrat governors in states like New Jersey and Delaware, enough that they have begun walking back their own mask mandates. Delaware, by the way, is where Joe Biden's from. The governor of the state where Joe Biden hails from is not. They're not playing with parents. They're done. They're backing away. They're scared. Democrats would be wise to obey parents lest they find themselves jobless like many of their other fellow politicians. It's true. Parents are by far the most influential political party in the nation. They don't get half the airtime. In fact, you would see a lot, like Black Lives Matter was for a time the most powerful unofficial political party in the nation. It got all sorts of grandiose descriptions and cheerleading from celebrities, news sources. You had politicians that were like, allowing Black Lives Matter to be painted on streets. George Floyd Square, renamed. They were renaming streets after George Floyd. I mean, Black Lives Matter. They were painting the words Black Lives Matter on football fields. I think Activision had Black Lives Matter pop up on its screen before you could play Warzone. Like, all this stuff was happening, right? Parents do not get an nth of that kind of attention. The parents of America are not going to be celebrated by the media. They're not going to be celebrated by celebrities. They're not going to be celebrated by anything with a platform. In fact, they're probably going to be demonized. And as you have seen, you had the Joe Biden administration sick the DOJ after parents whenever they would start complaining to school board members in person over CRT. Investigations happened. It was not a very popular move. But regardless of that, regardless of the fact that it does not have even a fraction of the promotion that Black Lives Matter had, these parents are already far more effective than Black Lives Matter ever was in terms of getting people elected. Way more. And you know what? They're doing it without burning towns to the ground. That's a really neat part of this. They walk into these areas. They are these meetings. They walk into these. They have these protests. They don't destroy. They don't do anything bad at all, and they win. Isn't that great? Where's Fauci? It's a good question. It's a good question. They duct taped the baby. Thinking of retirement, I hear. I heard that too. I mean, what else do you do at this point? You are ashamed. Your reputation's destroyed. People just don't believe you anymore. They're literally at a point where they're trying to hide you in the background because you're becoming a little bit too much of a. You're becoming a little toxic. You're becoming a little toxic. Your brand is toxic. It's bad. They don't want too much to do with you. So at this point in time, it's just like, all right, bro, you need to scoot yourself on out to the background. Just fade away. Fade away into the back. Here's the money. Just go. Just go. Get out. Which is probably a euphemism for getting the next high-paid gig to ruin our country further. I think Fauci is probably his wise move at this point in time is just to disappear. He's got to go. This guy's got to go, man. He can't. What else does he have? And speaking of which, I mean, Strife wrote this earlier. Fauci's latest interview sounds more like a swan song than a prelude to a new fake crisis. Apparently, here he is right here. He was on a Sunday talk show on Sunday. Joey Softserve's chief medical advisor, Joey Softserve. Dr. Anthony Fauci made his first major television appearance in several weeks. Throughout the COVID pandemic, it was Fauci who cheered on all sorts of bizarre rules that don't seem to have worked. Then suddenly, he disappeared. Now he's back. His chosen venue was ABC's This Week, hosted by aging Clintonite Muppet George Stephanopoulos. The ostensible reason was to warn us all about the new COVID variant, the one named BA2, because I guess they ran out of Greek letters and because they figured out that no Chinese potentate could possibly be named BA2. Oh, Strife is funny. By Fauci standards, it was pretty weak sauce. Stephanopoulos, we've seen this. Let's just go ahead and watch it.
Dr. Anthony Fauci. Dr. Fauci, thanks for coming back on This Week this morning. You just heard Nate's perspective right there, fairly balanced. What's your take on this BA2 variant?
Well, as was said, it has a degree of transmission advantage over the original Omicron, but not multifold advantage. So it's about 50 to 60% or so more transmissible, which means ultimately over time, it might take over as the dominant variant. Clearly, throughout the world, it's about 80+%, 85% of the isolate. In the United States, it's still somewhere around 30%. So it does have an increased transmission capability. However, when you look at the cases, they do not appear to be any more severe, and they do not appear to evade immune responses, either from vaccines or prior infection. So the bottom line is we likely will see an uptick in cases as we've seen in the European countries, particularly the UK, where they've had the same situation as we've had now. They have a BA2, they have a relaxation of some of the restrictions, such as indoor masking, and there's a waning of immunity. Hopefully we won't see a surge. I don't think we will. The easiest way to prevent that is to continue to get people vaccinated.
There it is.
And for those who have been vaccinated, to continue to get them boosted. So
that's there it is.
Right now, we can expect to.
I was waiting for it. Cha-ching! There it is. BA2 is coming, guys. Get vaccinated, get boosted. Why? Doesn't help, but maybe maybe he makes some money off of it. Who knows? Ridiculous. Did he say fairly balanced? I don't, dude. This dude's, his reputation is trash now. It's completely trashed. It's done. He's done. Look, BA2, whatever. Here's the thing. And we've seen this. We've seen this happen since COVID became a thing, right? Every single new variant that has been released is more transmissible, but less deadly. More transmissible, but less deadly. And there's a reason for that. It's because every single virus in the world, all of them, they want to be just like the most famous virus on the planet, which is the common cold. Super transmissible, not very deadly. Because, a virus, it benefits nothing to kill its host. If it does, it dies too. So it wants to be able to breed and spread just like any other creature on this planet. If it kills off its food source, it kills itself. So it wants to become less deadly so it can spread more. That's just the way it is with viruses. Not every virus gets to that point, but with most viruses, that's how it is. Coronavirus is no different. That's why it continued to get less and less deadly over time while being more spreadable. At this point, who cares? The amount of people who are affected by it at this point do need to be careful. But no, stop with this nonsense. Like, we all have to take all these precautions. We have to mask up kids. We have to get boosters on boosters on boosters. It's like, stop. It's over. Stop with the grift. There's nothing else for you to do here. You're done, dude. Go away. Go take the money and run, man. as fast as you possibly can, because after midterms, I'm pretty sure there's some investigations are going to happen. And I don't know if you're going to be on the winning side of these investigations. If Republicans have any integrity whatsoever, if they have any gumption, if they have any balls, any cajones, they're going to research Fauci like crazy. They're going to dig up everything, any file they could possibly find. I don't care what they're going to go through it with a fine-tooth comb, and they are going to obliterate this entire, because what I'm pretty sure, dude. We're gonna put on a tinfoil hat real fast because I gotta, just hang on. There has got to be some sort. This is a gift from a viewer, by the way. All right, my mod, no. There's no possible way, none whatsoever, that many of these politicians, including Fauci, pushed this hard for a vaccine that doesn't work, to the point where they were straight up willing to lie about it without getting some sort of financial kickback. They had to benefit from this financially somehow. This is why you still see Fauci coming out and trying to push stuff that does not work. Period. It's what the hell? Go away, dude. And I bet if the Republicans actually do their job, you're going to see them dig stuff up, and you're going to find some stuff that's going to make it go from tinfoil hat theory to absolute fact. You know for a fact it's going to happen that way because it has been happening nonstop like that. The stuff that people would say Rand Paul was crazy for uncovering or like trying to suggest or anything ended up being absolutely true. Absolutely true. And I am willing to bet money. Call up Vegas. I want to place a bet that there is some nonsense happening in some people's wallets right now that were in charge during the pandemic. And I bet Fauci made a lot of cash. I'm just going to put that out there. Could I be wrong? Probably. But I doubt it. Or maybe it was the fact that there was that conspiracy theory image that claimed to be a WHO list for when which variants would be uncovered. I never saw that. Maybe that's why they don't want anything to do with the Greek alphabet. Oh, I didn't actually hear about that. Is it odd that most COVID cases are out of the news now? All of a sudden, Congress is getting it and the VP husband. Look, I think that COVID's bad for business. And you saw a lot of the gung-ho-ness about COVID during the height of the pandemic because, it was easy to scare people back then. And it was probably going to get them elected if some people were like, we are going to do what's necessary to stop this. And they sounded heroic. And then over time, people realized that, it's not that scary of a virus. Chances are it's going to make you a little sick, but you'll survive it. You get back up, you'll do your thing, you'll be fine. And it was not worth, in retrospect, losing people's jobs, losing people's livelihoods, the collapse of people's social lives, not being able to see their parents in the hospital or go to their family members' funerals, like all this stuff. Life was so unnecessarily complicated. Ronald McDonald House was kicking out kids who had cancer because they weren't getting vaccinated. True story. That's how how ridiculous this got. That's the peak of the lunacy right there. And people just got tired of playing along. They were like, clearly this isn't that big of a deal, and I don't want to lose my job. I'm sick and tired of living in an unstable environment. I don't want this anymore. And so many Democrats began to back off. And I mean, you can actually see how people got tired of playing this game with these politicians, because you see a whole bunch of people leaving California. Once again, it all goes back to that. They're leaving California and New York, and they're trying to make their way to states like Texas and Florida. Do you know why? Because it's stable here. We have stable economies. We have politicians that don't just randomly go, oh, lock down again. Everyone lock down. Everyone lock down. Why? Because someone made a sniffle. Someone did a sniffle. We gotta lock everything down. You can't go to restaurants anymore. I mean, I'll go to restaurants. I'll go get my hair done, but you can't. People are tired of it, man. We've seen it. It's done. It's over. And speaking of which, when it comes to kids and the COVID-19 virus, the CDC's credibility takes another blow after another mistake is revised. This is from Bonchi. Trying to decide which governmental institution has suffered the greatest loss of credibility over the COVID-19 pandemic is a bit like trying to decide whether it's better to take a left or right jab to the head. There's really no wrong answer, and it's all going to hurt. Yet, when looking at the CDC, they sit somewhere near the top. Given just how apolitical this organization seemed to be prior to the coronavirus, sure, nothing in Washington, D.C. is ever actually political, but at least it was such a small part of our lives that you never really thought about it. Over the last 2 years, though, the CDC has been interjected into American policymaking in unprecedented ways. And that's led to some terrible results via unsupported mask hysteria, lockdowns, and other mandates. And while you'd expect an organization founded on, quote, science to never do things with a political bent, it's clear the CDC director, Rochelle Walensky, has been getting her orders directly from the Biden administration. That's true, but it's only partly true. I'd say that's about 80% true. According to Walensky herself, I want to remind you guys, she would watch CNN and decide policy from there. She was kind of getting her marching orders as inspired, I should say. Inspired her marching orders. CNN reports would influence her decisions. She would watch CNN to get marching orders for her own policies. CNN would then turn around and report those policies as being like, yeah, science. By the way, I apologize in advance if my speech seems a little off, if my train of thought seems like I got like no sleep last night, and like the pollen here is so heavy, it's like even hard for me to breathe. You hear me take deep breaths. Over the last 2 years, I already did that. Now another example has emerged. The CDC has revised pediatric deaths from COVID-19 down 24% after a, quote, mistake was discovered. This per the Daily Caller. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention revised its data this week to reduce pediatric deaths from COVID-19 by nearly 24%. On Tuesday, the agency was reporting on its COVID data tracker that 1,755 Americans under the age of 18 had died from the virus since the pandemic began in spring 2020. Now, it is reporting 1,341 deaths in that category. Can I get 1,000? Like, how many more mistakes did they make? I have to wonder. The CDC said the number was revised March 15th due to a, quote, coding logic error, according to a footnote on the agency's COVID data tracker. Pediatric death counts were not only the ones to be lowered, total death counts were reduced by roughly 70,000. Didn't this happen once before? Didn't they have to revise the death count? I could have swore that happened before, and it was like absurdly high, and they were like, "Oh, that was our bad," and then they lowered it down. Oh Lord, and the sniffle! Not the sniffle. Sniffleupagus. Money where my mouth is. I'll see if I can dig up the link to it, although it was probably taken down more in a bit. Yeah, let me know. I mean, if that is true, I want to know. The debate over COVID-19's risk to children has raged since the first infections were made known. It has been clear since at least April of 2020, though, that kids are simply not at any significant risk, certainly not to the point of justifying shooting them up with vaccines and forcing them to wear masks that some states still requires. Pretty insane. Yet, the White House has steadfastly been pushing for child vaccinations from COVID-19. The CDC's higher pediatric death number just so happened to play into that narrative. I'll let you decide whether it was truly a mistake or not, but color me suspicious. How does a screw up like that happen at a multi-billion-dollar funded government agency? And it only gets corrected after the FDA rejects vaccinations for small children. It's all just a bit too convenient. And I have to agree with Bonchi here. It's a little strange. It's a little strange, don't you think? It seems to me that there's some, they're playing with numbers. They're playing with numbers in the background. And I am not, look, it is not uncommon at all for these organizations, I should say government organizations, to play with numbers. They're known for doing that. They want to play with numbers. They want to, kind of, spread some mistruths here and there in order to make it seem like their point is a lot more poignant. You see them do it in everything from, for one, these CDC guidelines, but also if you look at, any political rally, what are they doing? They're trying to make their numbers seem a lot larger than they actually are. I mean, they play with numbers constantly on the left. They want you to believe that it's these organizations online, you think a lot of these mobs that get generated are grassroots? No. A lot of these mobs, the way these things start is they're activist organizations. Because you'll notice, this has happened to me quite a few times. You'll go online and you'll see a mob raging at someone, or maybe they're raging at you. Who knows? Express your opinions online. They'll find you eventually. Let's say they're coming at you. If you go through many of these accounts, you'll see that quite a few of them they've got maybe 7 to 8 followers. They're all anonymous accounts, They try to do, they try to start something up so that more people will join in, real actual people will join in. But it's weird, and you'll notice that even some of them contain the same exact phrases as other accounts that have about 7 or 8 followers. These anonymous accounts. It's kind of crazy to look at. But it just goes to show you that these people aren't actually as large a number as they make it seem. They want you to think that. They play with numbers all the time in order to play with your brain. That's just the way they've been doing things for forever. Because if they can fool you into compliance, well, you've complied. And they get more power or money or whatever they are looking for. Yet the White House has steadfastly been pushing for child vaccinations from COVID-19. The CDC's higher pediatric death numbers just so happen to play into that narrative, see? I'll let you decide whether it was truly a mistake or not, but color me suspicious. I never read that, but I just wanted to repeat that. At this point, the CDC has made enough mistakes, including falsely farming numerous studies on child masking, again, playing with numbers, that they don't deserve the benefit of the doubt. How does Walensky still have a job? That's a good question. The answer is likely because she's a good soldier for the administration. Because of that, even with this latest error corrected, don't expect the CDC to revise its overall messaging. Again, there is no reason for children to be isolated, jabbed, and masked in regards to COVID-19. The risks are just not there. A child is more likely to die from the flu than the coronavirus. There's a lot of money to be made from pushing vaccines on kids. And the Biden administration seems completely invested in that endeavor. There is a lot of money to be made from pushing vaccines on kids. There was a lot of money to be made in general from pushing vaccinations on everybody in the entire world. During the pandemic, the CEOs and stuff who ran these bio companies became billionaires. They became very wealthy over this. People were getting paid. What we need to find out is whether or not the politicians in Washington were getting paid. What kind of kickbacks were they getting? It's always about following the money. Always. You think a Democrat does anything just out of pure goodness of their heart? Give me a break. Give me a break. No. There's always a money trail. There's always a paper trail. Follow it. Let's see what we can find. If the Republicans have any kind of integrity whatsoever, we are going to launch so many investigations into the pandemic lockdowns, into the push for vaccines. Fauci is going to be at the center of it. It's going to be. I'm going to hold that against Republicans if they don't do something along those lines. I mean, there's so many questions that need answering. So many. about this pandemic because a lot of it doesn't line up. It doesn't make sense. We got shifting numbers. We've got people lifting mask mandates, but not for kids. All sorts of stuff. All sorts of weird stuff. You know, are the teachers' unions getting anything? I want to know. We need to know. Investigations need to happen. I'm not going to try to make any definitive statements, but I severely think that somebody somewhere is getting paid. All the right people are getting paid. That is my prediction. And I would like to know more. What? There's a difference between dying of COVID and with COVID? As it turns out. X the Chappelle demonstrated at Netflix wasn't about 10 people. Yeah, that's a really good point, Carrie. You know, they right now even, and I'm about to jump into this next story. This is a really good example. Right now, apparently, the LGBT workers at Pixar and their allies they sent a collective statement to Disney because they're mad. They're really mad. Apparently, the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida, Disney's response to it wasn't good enough for Pixar, for the LGBT people at Pixar. And therefore, they are going to take a gay kiss scene that happens in their newest movie that they're about to release, Buzz Lightyear. It was taken out at the behest of Disney. They weren't going to show that. And then they said, well, because of Florida's bill, we're putting it back in. We need to take a stand. And we're not happy with Disney for making us take it out. Apparently, they're going to put it back in. I don't know what I guess Disney's back against a wall at this point in time. If they try to say, no, they can't do that, then Disney's going to be accused of all sorts of anti-LGBT stuff, homophobia, transphobia, yada, 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 yada. So I'm pretty sure it's going to happen now. But let's go ahead and dive into this. Big mad! Yeah. The left's reaction to the Florida bill banning sexual identity education to children in grades 3 and below has been nothing short of disgusting. Not only do they feel the need to fight against a bill that stops the teaching of sexualization to children for some reason, but they also feel they need to wholly lie about it, calling it the, quote, Don't Say Gay bill when it doesn't even mention the word gay one time. So for those of you who aren't caught up on this, this bill basically stops the grooming of children, 3rd grade and below. I don't think it goes far enough. I think even more grades need to be included. But it's a really great, as far as like a political maneuver, this is a great one because it really shows you how far these people are willing to go to be crazy. But it effectively stops teachers or educators from trying to introduce sexualization, sexual identity, sexuality to kids, 3rd grade and below. Stops it. You can't talk about that stuff. And I agree with it. Teach them reading, writing, and arithmetic. They don't need to. I wouldn't want them teaching them about heterosexual relationships. It's not their position to do that. These kids go to school to learn how to add, how to subtract, how to read, how to write. Why do you need to teach them anything else? They're small children. Teach them to read, write, do arithmetic, and then send them outside to play. Maybe go down for a little nap. If you're trying to introduce sexuality to these kids, then I mean, what's your goal? Your goal can't be anything short of politics. That's really what it boils down to. Back when I was in the 3rd grade and below, the last thing that I was thinking about was, sex. I was way more concerned about, what games am I going to play today? When's recess? When's lunch? I loved to read, so I was really excited about learning to read and write. I used to actually have fun doing essays, like little story essays. One time, we were learning science in the 2nd grade, and we were tasked with creating a comic book. Like a comic for science, like just kind of describing the scientific process of something. And I got Rain, and I created these 2 characters, Drippy and Droppy, and their quest, they're not their quest, but their journey from becoming, vapor to raindrops. It was fun. That's what I was really into. I didn't think about sex. I didn't think about identity. I didn't think about any of that stuff. Kids aren't thinking about that stuff. And as we've covered on this stream before, the only reason they start thinking about this stuff is because the teachers themselves introduce it. They try to spark up these conversations. They're trying to inject their own politics into these kids' daily lives, and you can't do that. Yeah, why? Why? Unless you're trying to groom these kids, groom them either to be, these political activists down the line, or trying to normalize what you believe in order for them to back you up later on down the line. You're trying to effectively grow voters. You're trying to grow activists. That's all you're trying to do. Let's be honest. You use people who are out there trying to do this to kids. You don't have their best interests in mind. You see them as tools. Period. You don't care about them. Many of the same people pushing this nonsense are the same people who are trying to push masks on them. They don't care about their health. They don't care about their well-being. They don't care about their mental state. What they care about is that they have people who will agree with them later on down the line. They want to raise good little activists. They want to raise good little voters. And some of the sicker ones want to raise good little let's just say that they'll become agreeable to suggestion. Let's say that without getting too vulgar. Wasn't there a story about Disney staying out of politics? Oh, no, they got well back in. Well back in. They made the left big mad by trying to stay out of it. That was a big no-no. Drippy and Droppy? Hell yeah, man. Drippy and Droppy were awesome. I loved writing about them. I actually, after I was done with the assignment, I kept making Drippy and Droppy comics. I just loved the characters. They were fun. I liked to draw comics as a kid. I really did. I don't know why I didn't. I don't know why I stopped. I actually really enjoyed it. It had a lot of fun. According to Variety, Pixar's LGBT employees and its allies sent a joint statement to Disney claiming that the company had censored its overt references to homosexuality in its past movies, and further complained that Disney's response to what they call the Don't Say Gay bill didn't go far enough. The studio apparently drew a line, saying that the Florida bill has moved the studio to reinstate a same-sex kiss that has been taken out of the film at Disney's direction. This is from Variety. According to a source close to the production, Pixar's next film, Lightyear, starring Chris Evans as the putative real-life inspiration for the Toy Story character Buzz Lightyear, does feature a significant female character. Hawthorne, voiced by Uzo Aduba, apologies if I screwed that name up, who is in a meaningful relationship with another woman. While the fact of the relationship was never in question at the studio, a kiss between the characters had been cut from the film. Following the uproar surrounding the Pixar employee statement and Disney CEO Bob Chapek's handling of the Don't Say Gay bill, however, the kiss was reinstated into the movie last week. The decision marks a possible major turning point for LGBTQ representation, not just in Pixar films, but in the feature animation in general, which has remained steadfastly circumspect around depicting same-sex affection in any meaningful light. Well, why? Why? I don't see many kids shows really focusing in on relationships. Many kids shows go, they talk about friendships, the importance of those, and remaining loyal to your friend and good to your friend and stuff like that. But have you ever seen, I'm sure there are a few examples, but I can't think of them off the top of my head that really put the focus or try to highlight the relationship, a heterosexual relationship, with the exception of parents. The main one that's coming to my my attention right now is Inside Out. The mother and the father in Inside Out. And it was one scene that I can really, truly think of. Here, let's see if we can pull that up. Inside Out, Dad's emotions. This is the one scene that I can think of.
Red alert! Boy. 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 Boy.
I know what you're doing here, Jordan. You don't think that I know what you know, but I know, you little punk.
He's not good enough for Riley. No one is.
Go back to jail!
What are you looking for, Jordan? Something to steal?
Like our daughter.
Should we say something?
No. Don't be expecting that. Give him the silent treatment. He's about to crack. I can feel it.
Sir, no response.
Two can play at your mind games, Jordan. Intimidate! We were in a band.
Contact? What do we do?
This is our chance. Give her the look.
Here.
There's the signal.
We are go. Repeat. We are go.
Contact in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Okay. So?
There were 2 orders of heroes.
That's going to be awesome, by the way. The vast majority of kids on this planet have mother and father. The vast majority. But it's never, in my opinion, been a huge focus in kids' movies. But they want to start injecting this into kids' movies and make it like a big deal. Why? What's the point? What are you trying to do? You're trying to inject politics. That's all it really boils down to. You can call it representation, but come on. It's amazing how much representation each group now needs in our society. And I'm not saying that, look, I'm not saying that you can't make movies around those kinds of characters or around those kinds of lifestyles. By all means, go ahead. Some of my favorite characters in media have been gay. I like the one character that stands out to me the most, the one that literally made me laugh quite a bit, was I can't even remember his name now though. But he was in Mean Girls. He was the gay best friend in Mean Girls. He cracked me up a lot. I thought he was one of the funniest parts of that movie. You know? Gay characters aren't necessarily unwelcome, but why do you have to introduce sex and sexuality to children? It doesn't make any sense. Why do you have to introduce gender identity? The only reason you would be doing that is for political reasons. You're trying to normalize something. And you're going to ask me, well, why can't it be normalized? Look, if you want to try to normalize it in media, then by all means, go ahead. But keep the kids out of it. They should not be introduced to this. We're not trying to introduce it to children in any situation, any sexual situation. It doesn't matter. With the exception of the whole mommy and daddy thing, which is very, very common and typical. Kids have mommies and daddies. Very, very few of them have mommies and daddies like as a pair. Like mommies and daddies and daddies. Very few. But here's what's going to end up happening. If you want to push this on the American populace, then do not be surprised when a lot of people don't show up to this. They don't want to introduce their kids to sex and sexuality. It's not about normalization. It's about sex and sexuality. They don't want to introduce the kids to it. That's perfectly fair. That's perfectly fair. Keep your politics out of these kids' shows. Keep them out of the movies. Stop. You and your boy Jim should collab. Collab on a Drippy and Droppy cartoon on Red State. Just randomly just have Drippy and Droppy appear in places. They probably wouldn't fly. I'm not going to lie. I kind of like, when I was a kid in the second grade, I think I ripped Drippy and Droppy off of the M&Ms, the red and yellow M&M. Because like Drippy was like kind of the smaller and more, cocky one. He was kind of the leader, being demanding and stuff like that. And then Droppy was kind of like this big dope. Piss off the part of your audience that has the money. 6 to 7-year-olds don't buy tickets. Exactly. Found what you could on the chart. Okay, yeah. Yeah, post it in here if you can. Speaking of which, hang on real fast. By the way, just real fast, I want to advertise this. Red State Cigar Review with Tony Katz. The Davidoff Nicaragua Robusto. Eat, drink, and smoke with Tony Katz and Fingers Malloy. Weekend Cigar Review. It's a new show on Red State. For those of you who have never met Tony Katz or Fingers Malloy, these guys are incredible. They're hilarious. I love them to death. Hanging out with them, getting drinks with them has always been a huge pleasure whenever we go out and gather together like CPACs or anything like that. These dudes are always hilarious to hang around. Tony always brings cigars. He's got a big box of cigars every time we show up to anywhere. And I don't know, Fingers Malloy, seriously, he can take the most simple, I don't know how he does it. I wish I had this ability. He could take a simple phrase and make it just hilarious, like Benihana. He says Benihana like it's, I don't know, dude. Just watch the show. Just trust me. These guys have comedic chops. They're very wise. They're very funny. They're very cool. They're very laid back. It's a new show we got on Red State where they're talking about cigars, man. If you're interested in cigars or drinks, go hang out. Go check it out. You'll love it. Tony Katz did radio, as it turns out. That wasn't what I was looking for. There's this one article I saw about this whole entire thing, and they tried to say, where is it? It was so ridiculous. There it is. This is kind of this last conversation just kind of leads into this. This just in, according to the BBC, heterosexuality was invented in 1934. What is up with the BBC? First they ruined Doctor Who. Now they're trying to come up with this nonsense. Sometimes on the week. By the way, can I just make something very clear real fast before I get accused of homophobia? Okay. I have nothing against gay people. I have nothing against trans people. If you're gay, that's fine. I've got tons of gay friends. I don't care. Man, they're lovely people. I've met trans people, lovely people. I've not had many problems at all with the LGBT community, the regular people, the people who just, they're living their daily lives. They just so happen to be gay. All right. All right, the gayborhood here in Dallas, lovely place. Okay, I have nothing against these people. What I have a problem with is the activist part of their community. Their activists are mean. They're demanding. They absolutely demand that you conform, and not just conform to every single thing that the LGBT community demands of us, but also that we celebrate it, that they be able to have special privileges that we don't have in society. They can throw parades with like half-naked strippers and all sorts of kinks and sexualization going on. They want you to bring your kids. These activists do, okay? And they can get away with that. But if Adele says, I love being a woman, that's not allowed. That kind of nonsense. And sometimes the activist community just gets so up its own ass that you see this stuff right here. And they're trying to make it seem like heterosexuality is just something that we invented recently. It's this kind of absurdity that I cannot stand. If you look, I am a man who believes that you should be left alone to do what you want to do. Okay, if you're gay, you're gay. It's fine. You do you, man. All right, you do your thing. I'm gonna do mine. We'll leave each other alone. But the moment that these activists, whether they work at Pixar, whether they work in the education system, no matter what, the moment that they start trying to force their stuff down everyone else's throats is the moment that I start getting angry. It's that whole, bake the damn cake mentality that this activist community has, and I cannot stand them. I can't stand them. And it's not like I mind depictions of homosexuality in the media. I don't. Schitt's Creek was a one of my, I honestly to this day think it's one of the greatest sitcoms, or at least comedy shows ever made. Like it's great. Schitt's Creek had a lot of homosexuality in it. Did not care. The comedy was superb. And they never once tried to make it an agenda item. They never once tried to make anybody an enemy within the show. They never said, those conservatives don't like us. Dude, there are gay conservatives out there. Give me a break. This is nonsense. We got to stop this. But again, the gay community is fine. The activist community wants the gay community to believe and everyone else to believe that these conservatives, these Republicans, Americans in general, these Christians and stuff like that, they're all against the gay community. They want to destroy it. They want to, make them others. They want to clap them in chains and put them in jail cells where they're going to be shocked until they're not gay anymore. Like, that's the kind of nonsense that they want to spread around, and that's not even remotely true. And this stuff right here, when I complain about like them saying, oh, well, we're just going to include a gay kiss in Pixar, y'all, that's them trying to shove their nonsense down our throats. Not because they're trying to make it the right thing to do in representation. They're literally doing it, and they've admitted this. They are literally doing it because of political reasons. They're trying to do it because the Florida bill that stops kids from being groomed as young children, the Don't Say Gay bill, which doesn't say gay, they're trying to get revenge on Florida by putting a gay kiss in Lightyear. It's political. It's all political. They admitted it. And we're just supposed to be like, yeah, it's all about representation. It's all about equality and fairness. No, it's not, dude. You guys are lying about a bill in Florida that stops kids from being groomed. This is politics. This is all politics. Excuse me. Let's dive into this real fast. Straight was invented in the 30s. As it turns out, according to the BBC, well, the birth rate must be up from then, right? Right? It's not. Sometimes on the weekends after I've written, this is Bob from Mike Miller, by the way, and he is an excellent writer. Sometimes on the weekends after I've written 2 or 3 news cycle related pieces, I kick back and write about something light, out of the mainstream kind of stuff. Like heterosexuality as we know it was not only invented, it was invented in 1934. Back in 1934. Okay, not exactly light, but out of the mainstream just the same. So suggests BBC Future in the article titled The Invention of Heterosexuality. This is from the BBC. The 1901 Dorland's Medical Dictionary defined heterosexuality as, quote, an abnormal or perverted appetite toward the opposite sex. More than 2 decades later, in 1923, Merriam-Webster's dictionary similarly defined it as, quote, morbid sexual passion for one of the opposite sex. It wasn't until 1934 that heterosexuality was graced with the meaning we're familiar with today, manifestation of sexual passion for one of the opposite sex, normal sexuality. And there you have it, boys and girls. The author then opined, whenever I tell this to people, they respond with dramatic incredulity. That can't be right. Well, it certainly doesn't feel right. It feels as if heterosexuality has always just been there. Yeah. Yes. This is not... Do we not know how biology works? Do we not know how we get here? Do we not know where babies come from? Do we not know this? Are we just suddenly like, yeah, it's just, just kind of, babies just appear out of holes in the ground. Woo, the stork brings them in. These people. I mean, not to get all sciencey and stuff, but if heterosexuality has not always just been there, heterosexual desire, as it were, where did all the people come from who were or not heterosexual? I'm being facetious, but I mean, yeah. So the author tells a story about a man on the street video from a few years ago, in which people were asked if they thought homosexuals were born with their sexual orientations. Responses were varied, said the author, with the most respondents saying something like, quote, it's a combination of nature and nurture. The interviewer then asked a follow-up question, which was crucial to the experiment. The non sequitur question obviously asked, based on the interviewer's point of view, When did you choose to be straight? Most were taken aback, confessing rather sheepishly never to have thought about it. Feeling that their prejudices had been exposed, they ended up swiftly conceding the videographer's obvious point. Gay people were born gay just like straight people were born straight. The author's conclusion from so-called, quote, experiment, the video's takeaway seems to suggest that all of our sexualities are just there, that we don't need an explanation for homosexuality just as we don't need one for heterosexuality. It seems to not have occurred to those who made the video or the millions who shared it that we actually need an explanation for both. Au contraire, per the author, heterosexuality has not always just been there, and there's no reason to imagine it always will be. Sorry, pal, I and billions of my heterosexual friends beg to differ, based entirely on my earlier non-sciencey observation about procreation and the beginning of mankind and stuff. Let me go ahead and tell you where babies come from. When a man finds a woman attractive, he pursues her, gets her to a point where she is ready to do the no pants dance with him. And when they do the no pants dance, there's a chance that a baby can come out of it. This has been happening since we were in caves. Okay? I don't even know how to... What do you say to this nonsense? Like, this guy is trying to make it seem as if heterosexuality is a... Like it's its own fetish. But it's not. We are naturally wired... Men are naturally wired to want to have sex with women. And that's a part of... It is a part of our natural brain chemistry, because it helps us to procreate. It helps us to continue the species. It is an integral part of it. This is a natural attraction. You see it all over the animal kingdom. Doesn't matter who they are. With very few exceptions. Male and female come together. Boom. They make babies together. That's just the way it's been. It's a natural attraction. And this guy's trying to be like, well, you know, you kind of just decide to be straight. No. I don't think so. I don't think that's the case. You may have, I mean, but here's the thing. You may also not decide to be gay, but at the same time, I feel like there are inclinations about what... Look, everyone has a thing, right? Everyone has a thing that turns them on. And I think that some people have a really hardcore turn on when it comes to homosexuality. And sometimes you can't help that thing. Some people are naturally attracted to feet. I don't understand it. And if that's you, that's your thing. I'm not here to kink shame, bro. But I mean, at the same time, let's not pretend that heterosexuality, that you know, being attracted to a female if you are a male is somehow a kink. It's not a kink. It is the path to procreation that is ingrained in all of us. It is wired in us. Women are attracted to men just as much as men are attracted to women. Sex is like a heavily desired thing, but I mean, it's heavily desired not just because... Like, do you think that that whole sex thing just kind of... It's just there for no reason? Like, what do you think it's for? What do you think that pull, that attraction is for? There's a biological imperative here. It's just, these people try to come up with the goofiest nonsense, man. When a man loves a woman. Tell him, Red. Yeah, it is kind of funny to me, Red, you do bring up an interesting point. You would figure that if heterosexuality was a recent-ish invention, you know, over the last 100 years, that the birth rate would have skyrocketed, but it has declined significantly. A little odd, don't you think? A little odd. I don't know, man. Real fast, because we're running out of time, and I've got like a bajillion things to talk about, and I swear to you guys, I never have enough time. Never, ever, ever have enough time. The FBI knew! GOP Senator calls BS on intelligence experts and NYT over Hunter's laptop story. I want to talk about this real fast, just because it highlights so many things that are wrong with our media today. In this episode of the never-ending Hunter Biden laptop story and the lying liars who did their damnedest to cover it up and protect Joe Biden's ass right before the election, Wisconsin Republican Senator Ron Johnson on Sunday blistered the New York Times, as reported by the New York Post, for finally coming clean and confirming the authenticity of Hunter Biden's laptop on Wednesday. The New York Post broke the story in October 2020 and continued reporting. We've been sitting on the story for so long, and only now are they saying, oh, yeah, it's real. Only now is the New York Times actually confirming that it's real. How fast did they actually say that the whole the accusation, that the mere accusation, they were pushing it as damn near fact. It was like on their wish list to confirm it, that Trump and Russia were working together. CNN would be like, no, it was Hillary Clinton who started. He's like, yeah, he's working with Russia. And every single freaking person on the planet that had a journalist ID badge suddenly was like, yeah, we know. Look at all this evidence. Show me the evidence. It's right here. What's the evidence? It's right there. What is the evidence? Do you see it? Just present the evidence. Don't try to, not circumstantial, don't sit there and, try to make it seem like, like the littlest, there's like the tiniest bit of like maybe this means that he actually cooperated with the Russians. They were trying to take that and be like, damning evidence blows the roof off of the Russia case. Like, okay, bro. By the time I was so done with the whole Russia thing, pretty much immediately. But they've been sitting on this Hunter Biden laptop story for 2 years, and only now, or they'd be like, they have to admit, yeah, okay, it's real. The New York Post broke the story in October 2020 and continued reporting on Joe Biden's crackhead son. Hunter's foreign business dealings in connection to Ukraine energy firm Burisma while Daddy was vice president. As Red State reported on Thursday, initial reports on the laptop were met with widespread claims of, quote, disinformation. We've talked enough about disinformation. And censorship. Remember that New York Post was actually, their story was banned from social media? Remember that? When the Post initially broke that story, Twitter, I believe, there was multiple social media platforms were like, well, no, this might be hacked material. We can't have this leak. I mean, they were on it, bro. On it. Whenever they were appearing outside Mitch McConnell's house or Rand Paul's house or Tucker Carlson's house, it took Twitter forever to act. Man, they were on this story like it was white on rice, man. It was nuts how fast they acted on it. Among the best in show, we had the shameless lying California Democrat Rep. Adam Schiff, who infamously declared in October of 2020, we know that this whole smear on Joe Biden comes from the Kremlin. It's always the Kremlin. That's been clear for well over a year now, and they've been pushing this false narrative about this vice president and his son. Dastardly Republicans. The dastardly Russians and the Republicans working together to try to take down poor Hunter Biden with his crack pipe and his prostitutes. How dare they? We know that this whole smear on it's from the Kremlin. Good, dude, Adam Schiff. Is there any more Weasley than Adam Schiff? Seriously. We know that this whole smear on Joe Biden comes from the Kremlin. Prove it. We know prove it. Show us the evidence. We know. Every time someone like a politician says that, someone needs to be nearby with the skinny end of a fishing pole and just nope, can't do it. You can't make that kind of statement. During an interview with host, just follow Adam Schiff around with it. During an interview with host John Katsimatidis, On WABC 770 AM's The Cats Roundtable, Johnson first went after the New York Times, as the New York Post no doubt gleefully transcribed. I am just amazed that the New York Times just now came to the conclusion that the Hunter Biden laptop was genuine. Where have they been? That was pretty obvious within a week or two of the New York Post stories. The FBI had to know that. They wouldn't tell us when we were offered the laptop. I couldn't take it because I had to do my due diligence. The FBI knew. We reached out to the FBI. They wouldn't tell us it was genuine. They should have, but they didn't. People should be outraged. They should be. Johnson called on the New York Times to apologize, which it will not do. It won't. If they do apologize, it's going to be like buried either on their website in some linkless. Like they're not going to put the link out or anything. It's just going to bury it on their website, or they're going to print it in like some small little retraction on their paper, like this tiny. You could miss it. You could easily miss it. As well as the 51 so-called intelligence experts, none have done so, as Nick Rama wrote on Saturday, who originally rushed to dismiss the laptop as Russian disinformation in a letter released just days after the New York Post exclusive reports. The New York Times is finally quietly covering its tracks. Where are all the other apologies? Where's the apology from the 51 intelligence operatives? Or the 51, the one, what? Was it 51? Yeah, it was 51. So-called, I see what he was doing. My bad. See, my brain is just not working today. What they really said was that the laptop had all the hallmarks of Russian disinformation. I had absolutely no information whatsoever, no evidence that this was Russian disinformation. So you have all these intelligence operatives confirming a false story. They were rushing to confirm that it was a false story without the information first. They know it was from the Kremlin. They know it was from the Kremlin. Where's the evidence? It's right there. Where's the evidence? Don't you see it? Where's the evidence? What are you saying there's not? You calling me a liar? Yeah. You better breathe, Senator, when CNN pundits and professional liar James Clapper, who is nearly charged for perjury for lying to Congress, signs a letter saying the laptop has the classic earmarks of a Russian information operation. That guy, of all guys, is not about to apologize for getting caught lying with his partisan ass off. Near the end of the segment, Johnson observed what we've known for decades about the so-called mainstream news outlets, and over the past 6 years, the lapdog media's efforts to destroy Donald Trump. My main point is that the mainstream media, their bias, their corruption, their complicity in the Russian collusion hoax interfered with our elections, had a far greater impact on our elections than anything Russia or China ever could hope to accomplish. But they're never held accountable because they have to hold themselves accountable, and they are not going to do that. It's true. It's absolutely true. These people, for the longest time, they pushed this hoax, this Russian collusion hoax, for ages. And ages and ages and ages and ages. I mean, they had people believing that they had every bit of information. They had people believing that they had the proof. They didn't have any proof, but they just wanted you to believe that they had proof. And these intelligence agencies were all coming together to try to undermine, this or not, I shouldn't say undermine, reinforce this idea that the Kremlin and Russia was directly involved with Trump in some way, shape, or form. That everything was being done under their direction. No proof, nothing. They had nothing. And yet, I was on Twitter. You couldn't go on Twitter without seeing like a bajillion people. This Russian mobster, blah, blah, blah. You had Stephen Colbert calling Trump Putin's C-word holster. That's how much people believed it, and yet they are absolutely refusing, or at least they were for a long time, to even admit that this laptop was real. Instead, calling it a Russian hoax too. Everything comes back to it's Russia, 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 Russia. Don't ever believe the mainstream media, folks. The media is not your friend. The media is not trying to help you understand the world around you. It is trying to
It is trying to fool you into seeing something that's not there. Never believe them. Never believe them. Look at how quickly they rush to run defense for Democrats, but they will do everything in their power to go on the offensive against Republicans. It doesn't matter how absurd the idea is. The media is not your friend. That laptop is real. That laptop is real, and it should be investigated big time, because there's a lot of stuff on there that does not look good to the Biden family at all. Sad that we're here. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate the conversation. You guys are too cool. Go to redstate.com right now. All the articles that I talked about and more are up there right now. We've got a lot of writers churning out some really great stuff. Be sure to like this stream. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. This will be up on Rumble tomorrow in full, but also subscribe to keep an eye out for the highlights that I release from time to time. Much love to everybody. Thank you guys so much for showing up. And I will see you guys on Wednesday at noon Eastern Standard Time or 11 Central, the only time zone that matters. Peace, everybody. Much love.